Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Committed Critics, a pop culture podcast where we're not just only committed to our opinions, but also each other. Aww. I'm Kevin Lau.
I'm Ryan Davis.
I'm Zachary Wright, and we have a special guest back with us today.
I'm the special guest once again, Kyler Guebert. Very excited to be back.
He's back, yay!
Woo-hoo-hoo.
Kyler returns from episode 8, which is more than what we could say about the characters from Star Wars episode 8.
Oof.
Oh, let's not start with The Last Jedi slander right away. Season 2 just
We're
started.
done. We're past that train. We're over. Welcome back, Kyler. Glad to have you back.
Thank you. Very glad to be back.
It's nice to hear your voice again on the podcast.
Nice to hear all of your voices again as well.
Today, it's a new movie has released that has the whole Twitterverse, social media, the world divided, and it's called Soul.
Thank God, I'm so ready to talk about Soul. I have opinions.
I haven't seen Soul yet, but Wonder Woman 1984 came out, and I did see that. And that is what we're talking about today. So Wonder Woman 1984 released simultaneously on HBO Max and theaters on Christmas Day. Just a quick going around, how did you guys watch the movie? Let's start with you, Ryan. Did you have a nice TV setup for it, or did you just watch it on your phone, or?
I watched it on my laptop. It was an interesting experience, especially when it just shut down my entire laptop. Like all my internet just shut down at one point.
No.
When watching the movie. I will explain my thoughts on that later on.
Oh my God.
Wow.
How about you, Zach? How'd you watch the movie?
I watched it with my loving mother on our nice 55-inch TV, streaming from HBO Max, connected via my HDMI cord to my laptop because the Fire Stick app sucks.
Wait, you didn't use your PS5?
No, because it's in my room. I didn't feel like dragging that out. My laptop was easier to drag out.
Were you saying the Fire Stick sucks because there's no HBO Max app, or because it's just terrible?
Our Fire Stick's a little old, I think, and it can't really load Disney Plus or HBO Max right now. And it was...
That's fair. Both apps are also really bad.
It also had the HDR on our TV. It's not the best, so it was very hard to see in that last battle, but I'll get more into that later. Kyler, what was your watching method?
Ooh, well, originally my watching method was going to be seeing it in the movie theater, because I had that as an option. But instead, I decided it would be a better option to go see Promising Young Woman for a second time, so I did that. So I ended up watching Wonder Woman 1984 on a TV, on the HBO Max app, connected through Roku.
Honestly, it's probably a better option.
Yeah, I hear Promising Young Woman is really good, and I'm actually really curious about it.
We don't have... The episodes are only 30 minutes now. We don't have the time anymore to discuss how I feel about that masterpiece.
We do not have the time. I know. I'm just saying, hey, listeners, check out that movie. Probably better than this one.
Please do. Hopefully on VOD now.
But so yeah, I also watched it on HBO Max. I recently bought a Roku, and I just set it up because of now HBO Max is on Roku. I've set it up on my 4K TV with my family. We have a nice sound bar, so we get like good audio quality, nice sound, visual quality. The only problem was that my internet at home sucks. So we had some hiccups in the beginning, especially with the opening scene, where it was like we're kind of watching it, and it's like 240p. We're like, yeah, whatever. But then after that opening sequence, for whatever reason, suddenly it clears up. We're watching in 1080p with the occasional 720p dips, but overall, like, I didn't have to like consistently pause the movie or anything. It's like, my family's been pretty good about watching movies at home. But yeah, so with that out of the way, let's go around. What's your quick spoiler-free thoughts of the movie, and like how would you rate it out of 5 stars? Starting with let's go with Kyler. How would you rate the movie with your thoughts?
Oh, wow. Well, I don't want to say we pre-gamed this conversation a little bit, but we pre-gamed this conversation a little bit, so I might be one of the more positive reviews, so good to start out on that kind of note. I liked it. I thought it was a good 80s vibe. I thought that Kristen Wiig was so good, like literally like iconic villain-ish-esque level good in this movie. Like, I want a spin-off series. I want everything for Kristen Wiig because she deserved it.
I want her story finished.
Oh,
Right, Zach.
sorry,
Spoilers.
sorry.
oh, well, oh my God, I wish. Anyway, regardless of that, thank you. I had a good time with it. I think that there were moments where I was like, I'm a little, I don't want to say bored, but I was like, all right, I get it. Let's move on with this part. Just because it's a very long movie. But I had a good time. I'll obviously get into a little bit more in a bit, but I overall would give it like 3.5 stars, which I think is a whole star less than I gave the first one.
Well, it's still very generous of you.
Yeah.
Which is still very I'm pretty generous. I don't normally give anything too negative of a review unless it's really impacted me in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Like Cats.
Yeah, that's a movie. Also on HBO Max.
That is a movie.
How about you, Ryan? What's your quick thoughts on the movie? How would you rate it out of 5 stars?
All right, so you know how I always give flack to the first Wonder Woman movie's third act, correct?
Yes, everyone hates it.
After watching this, I would rather watch the third act of Wonder Woman, the first Wonder Woman movie, over this. I mean, at the end of the day, it was a solid movie, but I was very much bored, and like I said, my computer just shut down on me, and that's how I reflect this movie as. Yeah, it was so. My computer was so done with it that it just said no.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed bits and pieces, but like throughout as the movie went along, I just got more and more disconnected with it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it was. I enjoyed more of Chris Pine and Gal Gadot going around than anything else. Just going around the 80s, just experiencing the 80s.
Valid.
But Brian, how out of 5 stars, what would you give it?
Out of 5 stars, I'd give it a generous 2.5.
Wow.
And that's me. I was going to give it a 2, but
Right at 50-50.
I was like, I'll be nice.
Man, I don't think my review is gonna be too well received here. But Zach, you go ahead.
My review is it was just it was very, very long. Everyone's performance from Pedro Pascal to Kristen Wiig to Gal Gadot to Chris Pine was done great. I love the performance of each of their characters. It was great. But it was 2.5 hours long, and I've never seen my mother more like disappointed and sad at a movie in my life, like in a while. Yeah, I'd be like, that was terrible. I'm like,
oh no,
it was pretty long. It was pretty long indeed. So yeah, I think I'm gonna be a little more mean. I mean, not as mean as Kevin's gonna be probably, but I'm gonna probably give it a 2 out of 5.
All right.
Oh wow, I'm really surprised.
We're just going down the numbers.
We're slowly going down.
All right, Kevin.
But here we go. So I do not like Wonder Woman 1984.
At all?
At all.
Okay.
I mean, there was like some moments that were actually, interesting, like, the action sequences, and obviously Pedro Pascal's performance is really great. I thought Kristen Wiig was really good in this movie too, compared to some of her other work. Not that she's a bad actress, but it's more like I feel like she's miscasted a lot. And this one here, she fits the role a bit better than her other roles. But there's a lot of problematic thematic material in the movie, such as the life lesson of, which we'll dive into in a bit, and how that's applied to the villains and how the villains' motivations, even if whether or not they're justified, how it's framed in the narrative, and then once again, it's a long movie. It's 2.5 hours long. Not that there's anything wrong with a long movie, but there's not enough in the movie to really justify it. It does feel like it's going around in circles a bit, and it's everything that's kind of like, you would think that something has already been developed in the movie, but then they just kind of redevelop it again, or like show that it hasn't been developed yet. So, but before we go into spoilers, I do want to say that it's a 1.5 out of 5 for me. Not that great.
I have a really quick question prior to moving on real quick. How did y'all feel just briefly about the first Wonder Woman movie?
I enjoyed it a lot.
I I really like the first Woman movie. Like the third act was kind of weird, and obviously like
Like, if you had to do the star system with the first one, like off the bat, what would you say?
4 out of 5.
4 out of 5,
me.
yeah.
I'd say 4 out of 5, maybe 3.5 out of 5.
Okay. Okay. Cool. So that's really interesting.
Yeah, so yeah, you can kind of get a little background of that.
Yeah, how did you feel about it, Kyler?
About the first one, I liked the first one. I think I gave it 4.5 out of 5.
Okay.
Or 4 out of 5, one of the two. I don't know, but I also think I've only ever watched it like twice.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause I think I saw it once in the theater, and then I saw it once like randomly.
Yeah, I mean like it's it's a big movie. It's not something I would imagine people just consistently rewatching.
Right.
It's probably one of the best ones of the DCEU, like honestly. But I know that's
Oh, for sure.
It's easily top 3.
Yeah, top 3. This top 3.
But going back to our previous conversation when Kyler was on last time, like with streaming versus theater, I have a question. Do you guys think it would have benefited if this movie was in theaters?
Well, if I saw it in theaters, I think for me personally, when I critique a movie, I'm not really too interested in the spectacle of it. It's more like the spectacle and the visuals and audio sound design is like the cherry on top for me. So I'm more focused on like the actual writing, the actual, performances, the direction, all that stuff. I still think I would have walked away with the same feelings as I have now. I watch a lot of movies at home anyway, so I'm not like this wasn't like a jarring experience for me watching a blockbuster at home. But what about you guys? Let's start with let's go with Ryan.
I'm kind of a little bit different on that because I do like the spectacle of a movie theater, like the music, because I noticed a lot of the soundtrack in this was like brought back to not just the previous Wonder Woman movie, but like Batman v Superman. They had music from that because they had Beautiful Lie. They had, I think, something from Justice League in there too. I heard different soundtracks that I heard from other DCU movies. So I was like, man, if this had been in the movie theaters, I would have been like vibing. But it's also at the end of the movie where I'm just like, please end it all. I'm like, there's 15 minutes left. Just get through. Yeah, no, I think watching it on a streaming service, like watching on HBO Max, just kind of lost some of the magic for me.
Yeah, I could see that for sure.
Watching it for the very first time, like, especially a superhero film, I love watching a superhero film in theaters rather than on a TV or a laptop.
Kyler, what do you think?
I think, because I thought about this, because like I said, I was originally going to see it in the theater. I think this movie has kind of like a chiller vibe where it's like okay to watch it at home.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't need to be seen in theaters, if that makes sense. Like, I think if you saw it in the theater, you'd be like, definitely, like, you'd have a good experience with it because, like Ryan said, with the music that they put in and the score and the visuals, and I think the visual effects, nobody talked about that yet. I think the visual effects might have looked a little bit better on the big screen versus on, like, TVs and laptops and such. Because at times they were a little shaky, but I think the film has enough of a chill vibe where it's like, it's okay to sit and watch it at home if you want to. You don't have to see it in the theater. Like, I don't think it demands that. And I also think, I don't know about any of you, but like I was like kind of like, I was like maybe like 65% paying attention the first time I watched it. And I watched it a second time and like paid full attention.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I liked it more the first time and had like a better response to it because I was like only half paying attention. So like when it got boring in like certain segments, I'd like look away. And then I'd look back when it would change the scene and I'd be like, all right, cool, we're back. Which is just goes to show that the film does not need to be 2.5 hours long.
Yeah, I think for me, there's no big set pieces that really could have benefited from like big battles or anything like even when she's saving, or not, I'm not gonna spoil the movie, sorry. There, even like the final battle, there was no like, oh, I needed to see this on the big screen. If my TV just hadn't messed up with the HDR, I could have seen it a lot better. That was more my TV's fault than anything. But yeah, there's no like big like awesome set pieces that could have benefited from the screen, in my opinion, at least.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Except for like maybe that one fight in the middle of the movie, but that's even then like we'll talk about it right after the break. But yeah, it's like it's going to be really at odds with itself in terms of production value. Any last words before we kind of go on break for a bit?
Bah humbug.
All right.
Well,
I mean, go watch it if you like Wonder Woman. I mean, I don't.
Yes.
If you think it's interesting, watch it. It's worth the time.
I agree.
I mean, that's kind of like with any movie. Like, hey, man, does it interest you? Watch it, you know? Yeah, form your own opinion.
Yeah, decide for yourself.
If you don't like it, then you just don't like it. Don't attack other people for liking it, because people can enjoy things sometimes.
True.
Believe it or not.
Unless you like cats.
Hey, man.
I'm only half kidding. It's okay.
Jellicles are...
Jellicle cat. Jellicles can.
kinda-
Angelicals do.
All right, we're going to have a quick break, and we'll be right back. Looking for a spot to advertise your business, product, or service? You can have a personalized ad right here on Committed Critics. Email us at committedcritics@gmail.com for more info. And now we're back, and we just kind of have to talk about spoilers now. So if you haven't seen the movie, go ahead and maybe not listen or watch the movie. If you listen to spoiler reviews before you see the movie, what person are you? Like,
That's bold, and I respect you.
This won't make sense if you do that.
But yeah, this is your chance to get out. Get out now. All right, they're gone. Come back after what you watch Wonder Woman, and
They won't hear that.
If you're still here, you're sinking into the floor.
exactly.
Welcome.
We're going to dive in right now. Zach, so what's your spoiler-full topic that you want to bring to the table?
this is just a very, very long movie. I paused it like just randomly, and I'm like, I'm gonna get like a little snack. Mom's like, yeah, I'm hungry too. And I looked at the little like the scrubber bar, and we're halfway through, and I'm like, we're an hour and a half in, and we were shocked.
What a nice spot for an intermission.
The same thing happened to me, but opposite.
It was perfect. And then so like we paused it again like halfway through that half, and we're only halfway through the back half of the movie. And I'm like, oh my God. I feel like this movie it didn't play into the 80s vibe as much as it could have. There was no 80s music.
Mm-hmm.
The Thor Ragnarok like trailer the Thor Ragnarok vibe from the trailer didn't really bleed through into this movie at all.
Here is my one defense of.
Go ahead.
I will defend the film in this round. I don't think the film necessarily has that 80s vibe in the terms of Thor Ragnarok that we expected. The film is 80s in the terms of like it was made in the 80s.
Yeah, that's for sure.
It's very kitschy, like the shots, the way that it's stylized, like all of it was like it was literally made in 1984. Which is part of like that's with it versus like that vibe.
The problem is that it's so inconsistent of when it looks like an 80s movie.
Valid, yes.
Because of its production value. It's like it's a movie with a $200 million budget. Like some of it looks like $200 million and some of it does not. And like the stuff that does not sticks out like a sore thumb because it's not consistent in tone.
Like when she's flying.
Oh,
Yeah, it's so inconsistent with how it wants to look, and it doesn't. So, but the way it sets itself up is as a $200 million movie. So that's like it sets the tone of that, but then it kind of bounces around back and forth. But I don't mean to hijack the conversation from you, Zach. So go ahead and continue.
no,
about that.
I think you both are right, and to an extent, like Kyler, I think it is set up like an 80s movie, and I think even though it is a $200 million like budget movie, if they would just have leaned into that 80s nostalgia like Thor Ragnarok did, or even like Guardians of the Galaxies, like stuff like that.
Well, I mean, like you look at Stranger Things season 1, it looks like it was shot in the 80s.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Like the same, like literally the same texture of the image is like a Spielberg
Right,
movie.
yeah. If you lean into that vibe and that like that all that culture of the 80s, granted there's some really very bad things in that time of the 80s. It really I think would have made this movie feel more like a world, like wow, this is like a timepiece. But now it's just kind of like it's just a very long and like dragging on movie.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Can I very quickly? I have a couple scenes I think that we can cut to make this film shorter, and I think that would help make this film better.
A couple, maybe a little bit more.
Let's get this under 2 hours.
All right, let's do. Okay, no. Because hear me out. The opening scene is not necessary.
Yes, agree.
You can get the exact same main themes by starting in the mall, and I feel like that would help the vibe a lot more.
Definitely.
Because that's a huge inconsistency, like Kevin was saying earlier, because that immediately took me. I was like, wait, hold on, what's going on?
Completely agree.
Like, it's too about switchy. You could have started it with Max talking in the commercial and stuff, and then gone right into it, and it would have kept you in, because that's the only time in the whole movie
Yeah.
that we're not in the 80s. And it's like, we didn't need that lesson, because that lesson is reinforced so much over the rest of it.
The lesson they set up is very like wishy-washy. It's all about truth.
Yes, it's incredibly wishy-washy.
But they use like, hey, don't cheat. Yeah, it's like all these like it's like a mangalination of like 3 different lessons in one.
Exactly.
When it could just be like, hey, play fair.
And that opening will help take away from that and help distract and will limit that a little bit less. So it's not as like preachy and it's not as convoluted by knocking out that scene, because then it's not like, oh, this has been ingrained in her whole life, because we already know it basically has. Like, we saw her in the first movie. We know who she is. The scene is really cool and I enjoyed it, but like, it's not necessary. I really love it. It's just not necessary. You can start it at the mall and be good.
And boom, that's 10 minutes chopped off right there.
And also, like, literally basically everything in Egypt. Pretty much everything in Egypt except for Max giving the Egypt guy the wish. Like, that's everything else can get chopped.
And boom, that's 20 minutes cut off
and
right
that's
there.
like 25 minutes right there. Congratulations, we're a 2-hour movie.
I really think the opening scene was just there just to, one, they wanted to go back to wherever they filmed the mascara at, and two, just to introduce, hey, we have this armor lady that's gonna, or this armor from this old
the
the
armor
armor
is
wasn't
introduced
even in
until
that
halfway
opening
through the
scene.
movie.
Yeah, like that's the thing. Like they explained the whole legend of the armor like later on in the movie, so it wasn't really necessary for it to be in the beginning.
There's no point
And
of
then-
it.
Yeah, and then I agree that the Egypt scene wasn't necessary.
Like, I liked all the car flippy stuff, but it's like, it's nothing we haven't really seen.
See, I didn't like.
a
I
whole
didn't
lot
like
before.
that.
Yeah, and that's another problem I have.
enjoyed it though. It kept my attention. It was really well done. It's just like, it was like, okay. Like, it wasn't like, I'm not thinking about it like that scene where she's in no man's land in the first movie. Like, there's no scene like that like, when I think about this movie, that's what the scene I think of. Like, I'm just like, I think about Kristen Wiig.
I'll be honest. I did not
Speaking
like.
of Kristen Wiig,
Oh.
well, what did you have to say?
Oh, my last thing was like, well, this kind of goes into the next thing. I didn't like any of the action scenes in this movie except for the White House action scene with Diana and Barbara. That was the only
That scene was really
action
good.
scene I enjoyed.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, because that's where Kristen Wiig and Gal Gadot kind of shine, and kind of Chris Pine and Pedro Pascal too.
Mm-hmm.
I think the biggest thing that's the problem is there should only have been one villain in this movie, and they try to do 2. Speaking of villains, Kyler, talk about Kristen Wiig. How much do you love her?
Kristen Wiig. Listen, I have been waiting so long. I remember watching Kristen Wiig on SNL like in 2008, 2009. So like before any of this stuff, like I was like the dream would have been Kristen Wiig in this type of role. So when I heard that she was in this type of role, I was so excited. I've been so waiting, and she was so good. Like she perfectly encapsulates Barbara and gets all of the awkwardness and the quirkiness and then the slow evolution of Barbara. She does literally perfectly. She hits her notes. She does everything she needs to do as an actress to convey this character in a way that is both where you're rooting against her, but at the same time you're rooting for her, because you're like, you relate to her, you understand why she's doing the things she is, even though that does make her a villain, which is kind of makes both villains in a way, because there's so much backstory with Pedro Pascal's character. It kind of makes him a little wishy-washy, but it's literally from the moment that Kristen Wiig was on this screen, she commanded. Anytime she was on the screen, I was watching the movie. My eyes were on the screen. Like, she's that good. Like, she immediately hooks you.
The one thing I want to point out is Kristen Wiig did no wrong. Her character is just not written the best.
Correct.
Exactly.
I just want to point out something, and you guys are going to hate me for it. Her character is just a less geekier Electro from The Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, essentially.
Okay, that's every single comic borrows from each other's act.
Yeah, no, yeah, I see it. I completely see it.
I mean, yeah, I'm just trying to be a dick.
I know. We didn't do nothing to Kristen Wiig. She didn't do nothing to nobody.
Kristen Wiig, innocent.
Kristen Wiig is fine. Pedro Pascal was fine. They're both great villains. They're just not written.
Pedro Pascal's character, I didn't think was written all that well, to be honest. There was too much backstory.
Oh, the character was definitely. I think that's just the whole movie. Like the characters were not written very well.
Yeah, that's valid.
Here's the thing with Pedro Pascal's, that whole like snippet at the very end where they're like kind of showing his life. I feel like they should have done that early in the movie rather than
For
kinda
sure.
like
For sure.
like because like focusing on the whole son thing. Like I was like, okay, yeah, he has a kid. I'm supposed to feel for him, but I'm like, I don't feel for him. The only time I felt for him like was when we see that little snippet. I was like, oh man, he's had a kind of a suckish life. I mean, I could tell he had an accent or something throughout the movie. So I was like, maybe he's like a foreign kid, and this is also the 80s, so.
My mom pointed that out. She pointed out the son thing. He was like, he never really was like that great of a dad to his son. I'm like, yeah, you're right. He wasn't.
No, he was a terrible father.
Yeah.
Add him to the
it's
list of terrible fathers.
Not to be like kind of throw I don't know, insults around, but it is kind of a rookie mistake to like have like everything to make your character sympathetic at the last moment.
Yes.
There's a lot of books do it too. It's like suddenly at the very end when the character's about to die, oh, you suddenly feel sympathy for them. Like, no, you gotta like you have to spread that out. You have to introduce that way.
Severus Snape, for example.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's a good example, Zach.
And she didn't even, J.K. Rowling didn't even plot those books.
Yeah.
Believe it or not. But yeah, but Kristen Wiig was great. Innocent. Pedro Pascal is great. Also innocent. I think everyone,
I love Chris Pine.
I love Chris Pine is great, as always.
Chris Pine, every single fit was very good. I love that man. He is the best Hollywood Chris. That's an argument for another time, maybe, but I stand by that.
I wanted the entire movie to just be him, Chris Pine and Gal Gadot, their character, just going through the 80s and him just figuring out what stuff is. Like that, like that entire scene, I was like, this is fun.
Yeah, you're gonna like WandaVision.
Real quick segue to that, him figure out stuff is, how in the hell does a World War I veteran know how to fly a jet?
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
Instinct. It's what he was born to do, baby.
I was like,
he was born to fly that
Between
plane.
that and Diana making the jet invisible, which made me groan so much.
This movie has a rock that grants wishes. Calm down.
Right, honestly, The Rock grants wishes. I was like, if you would have asked me what was going to cause all the problems in this movie, I never would have looked you in the eyes and said a rock that grants wishes.
Yeah, that's fair. The thing that causes the problems in this movie is Kristen Wiig wanting to be sexy. That's what causes all the problems.
She just wanted to be appreciated.
And we got to nuclear war. We went right to nuclear war.
And we got to nuclear war. Right to nuclear war.
No in between, just boom, right there.
I will say my one critique with Barbara's character, I mean, like, I know you guys say she's not written as well. My biggest critique is that they kind of rushed that friendship. Like, I did not...
Yeah.
I was like... Because in the comics, the three people who are Diana's friends at the beginning is Steve Trevor, Etta Candy, and Barbara Minerva. Like, they're her circle. And Barbara eventually turns into the cheetah, and that's where the relationship goes bad. And they try to do that in this, and like, oh yeah, they became friends for like a day. She saved her from a dude trying to like grab her, and so suddenly we're supposed to be like, they're besties, and I'm like,
Well,
She
Yeah,
doesn't
the
know
thing is
you.
like it starts to build up to a relationship, then it kind of just plateaus and doesn't develop any further.
I was very surprised that, like, during the White House fight, whenever Chris Pine like goes like, he's like, hey Barbara, like, stop. She just didn't like kill him right there. I was very surprised. I'm
Well,
like, damn.
yeah, that would have been good.
I just think if they established the friendship earlier, it would have been better. Like established it like it already existed when the movie started. Like she's been friends with her now that she's in the 80s.
The thing about it though is like Barbara literally has nobody, so the fact that like this woman is even nice to her, of course it's gonna latch on, so it's gonna be nice. And for
Right.
like it's established neither one of them has anyone, so the fact that it's two people that are being nice to each other and like they're not being hit on, like they just are chilling and they talking about what they know and what their work is, like it kind of makes sense for them to get like close quickly since neither one of them have each other. Like if you live somewhere and you have one friend, you're gonna hit up that friend a lot.
But also like their first real conversation they have is, have you ever been in love before? Which is I'm like,
Yeah,
I'm
true.
pretty sure
I
this
mean-
breaks the Bechdel test right off the bat.
Right off the bat, they were talking about a rock and they're named, so there we go.
I guess so, man. Which brings me to my point I want to talk about is like the themes of the movie. Where, so like we mentioned that so in the beginning of the movie, the opening sequence, you kind of have like an amalgamation of themes where it's like, you have to accept the truth of your reality and also don't cheat in life. And it's kind of like, the movie thinks it's one thing when it's actually two things, and it's super weird. But as the movie progresses, so that's Wonder Woman's arc. The Wonder Woman's arc is to accept the truth of her reality, and that's the basically the final theme that everyone needs to learn, including both villains. So Max Lord needs to accept the truth that of his reality, that what he's doing is going to negatively affecting his son, and might actually kill him. Yeah, exactly. And Barbara's needs to learn to not try to be like Wonder Woman. And also because like as she grows to be a villain, like her turning point as a villain is to kicking a guy that was harassing her, which, you know, it's the second time he's harassed her and almost assaulted her, and that, you know, it's kind of justified that she would, you know, beat that guy up. But also this is the turning point as a villain where we're not supposed to actually agree with her actions. And also telling her to accept the truth of her reality is also telling her to just kind of accept to be assaulted? Question mark? Like, am I wrong here?
I don't think you're wrong. I think that's a valid assessment. I don't see it that way. I don't know how I see it, but I don't see it that way. But I do see what you're saying, and I do understand that, because that is honestly that does make sense. Everything you said completely tracks.
Right, because like, you know, because basically, you know, the theme is like you have everything you needed before you made the wish. So Barbara's character was like a nerdy loner that like but no one paid attention to her, no one cared about her, and she was almost assaulted. So like, what is she supposed to do with that? Like,
I guess their argument is, if you're saying she had everything she needed, I guess the only argument is that she had Diana. But I'm like, even so, that's not really an argument, because, again, only knowing her for a day, she didn't really have anything.
Well, I don't think she necessarily wanted to be... I guess she did kind of say she wanted to be like Diana.
mm-hmm.
So I think she wanted to be able to have those aspects. And I think that the lesson of this film for her is not necessarily like, I should have just stayed the way I was and everything would have been fine. But it's more of like, I can't try and become someone else. Like, that's not how it works. I can learn from other people and become better and do that and figure out how to do all this and, you know, make people like me and stuff. But I can't just like wish that suddenly I'm strong and popular and everyone loves me.
Right.
And all this
but how
stuff.
does that,
that's just not realistic.
but how does that help her in the sense of being assaulted?
Right.
I mean, the thing is, like, her character isn't over. So, I mean, like, you're right. Yeah, Kevin, you're right. So, I mean, like, right now she's currently just sitting there on an island, probably with still Diana's powers, because she made the wish before Pedro Pascal's character made his wish. So, I mean, like, his wish got reversed and everything because he renounced it, but she never did. So she is more than likely still an evil Amazonian. And Wonder Woman 3 just got confirmed today, so...
So what if this is like actually like part 1 of the story, and then Wonder Woman 3 is going to be part 2 of the story?
Better be shorter. This better be a reverse Mockingjay.
I just want to say, if they do a part 2, I hope they do not bring, 1, back that armor, and 2, Cheetah's look, or they update it or something, because the look at the end, the entire final fight at the end, I was like, this looks terrible.
Like cats.
When I saw the fur, I'm like, thank God my HDR and the TV is going out, because... I did not want to see her.
Again, I'd rather watch the third act from the first Wonder Woman. I was like, the mustache I can deal with, but that armor and that fur, I can't.
It didn't look great, but it was a fun fight. It was still a good time. It just wasn't like, it didn't look
Did you guys think that Wonder Woman killed Barbara in the water?
I did.
Absolutely. I was so sad. A lot of people hate Gal Gadot, but that would have made me hate her.
Yeah, because she was like, man, like, you leave me no choice, then boom.
Like, with no emotion either.
In the comics, Wonder Woman literally kills most of her enemies except for Cheetah. She literally murders all of her enemies. So I was like, yeah, finally we get to this Wonder Woman. Cool. DC's going dark again.
Exactly. So that's why I was like, did she kill her? Like, because the movie, another critique is like, the movie doesn't have much emotion to it. There's no real drama. There's no real conflict going on. Things are just kind of happening.
Yeah.
Valid, yeah.
There's, you know, there's a quote unquote ticking clock. There's, you know, like some conflict in terms of ideology, but there's nothing really clashes together in any meaningful or effective way.
The only conflict is the bombs about to go off to destroy all of the world. That's really the only, like, we have to stop this from happening. There's no, like, conflict Diana really has to overcome besides, like, letting go of Steve Trevor. But even though, like, she knows she has
to. But then she realizes that so quickly, and then she just does it.
And see, I didn't even feel anything when she died. When she was like, I renounced my wish, I was like, cool.
Exactly. because it just happens so quickly.
Yeah, because he did it on the side of the street, like in a crowd.
And then she walked away.
I feel sorry for that dude who just got dragged around town with some random lady. Like, his body was just stolen.
I was thinking about that today. Honestly, that's kind of problematic, but we don't have time to get into all that.
Oh yeah, there's a tweet going around. It's like, man, if you think that's problematic, wait till you watch Source Code.
Oh. Oh no. Don't bring up Jake Gyllenhaal.
Kevin, I agree with you. Like, the theme was very lacking and definitely needed another pass, and it definitely can be made to be problematic.
Mhm.
Yes.
So, but in like, I know like the intention is not to make it problematic. I know the intention is supposed to be, you know, very feminist and very up, trying to really raise women up in however they're depicted in media. But it's just they needed like a story consultant
I
or
think
something.
that happens sometimes when it's a director-writer combo. When the director also wrote the film, that tends to happen. It either works out really well or it doesn't work out at all.
Yeah, Patty Jenkins wrote this one. She didn't write the first one. Jeff Johns returns again to co-write this film. And then David Callahan is also a co-writer he did Zombieland 2 and a couple other movies. And he signed on for Spider-Verse 2, and there was another movie. Oh yeah, Shang-Chi, yeah. Oof, man. The only credited writer on that one too, so I'm a little worried about Shang-Chi. Before we end the episode, any final thoughts?
Watch it if you like Wonder Woman.
Yeah, I think if you like Wonder Woman, you should watch it. I think if you have 2.5 hours to kill and you just want to put on something that you can just have on in the background, you don't have to pay super close attention to it if you don't want to. It's a good choice. I think it could set up a lot for the third film, and I hope it does, and hopefully it pays off. So it's more like a, sorry, it kind of slugged in the middle, but it's really going to knock it out at the end.
Hopefully.
So fingers crossed for that.
I'm hoping that
and also Cheetah coming back.
I'm hoping that they weren't like, oh, they're like, yeah, this like, you don't worry about, this movie may be bad, but don't worry, the third one's going to make up for it. Like, no, that's not how you make a movie, but whatever.
Nope. Okay.
Ryan, closing thoughts?
I have to give a hot take because that's my role in this show. So,
Hot take Ryan.
Yes. Basically, my hot take is I would put this mid in the entire DCEU. It's above Shazam to me.
Oh, that is hot.
Oh, I forgot he didn't like Shazam.
But it is below the other Wonder Woman and Suicide Squad. Yes, I said it.
Below Suicide Squad. That's, I mean, I guess I can see it below Suicide Squad. Well, wait. No,
Oh, God.
yeah, I think people hate Suicide Squad more.
Ryan's rankings are crazy.
Yeah, I don't even question Ryan's rankings. I just listen to them and say, okay.
In one
You
ear,
just
out the
accept
other.
I just accept it because it's not going to change. Hashtag Transformers forever.
So this has been another episode of Committed Critics, the start of season 2. We're going trying to be a little bit shorter with each episode. I think this one went a little bit over, but it's whatever. We'll be going weekly now. And you can follow us on Twitter at Committed Crits. That is COMMITTED CRITS. We have our own YouTube channel separate from KFM Studios. Screw those guys. You can follow us on Committed Critics up there, spelled the same way as it is on our podcast.
And Kyler, where can we follow you at?
Oh, you can follow me on Instagram at popculturekyler. And anything I link from there should be available. You can see all my reviews, all my work, all my stuff going on there. So yeah, that's where you can find me.
Pop Culture Kyler, POPCULTUREKYLER. Right?
That is correct.
Nice. I wrote it down ahead of time. You can go ahead and support us on Patreon, just $1 or $2 a month, man. That helps us out a ton. And special thanks to our sound engineer, Jordan Smearman. And we will see you next week. Bye-bye.